Welcome back and welcome to Vlogmas day 11. Today I have a discussion of some of the poetry I've read recently, because I don't feel like sort of modern poetry gets discussed enough here on BookTube. And the last time I made a poetry video, which I will leave linked up here along with my Vlogmas playlist in case you've missed any of that, it was really well received and a lot of you seemed to watch it. So I thought I would tell you about 5 of the poetry books that I have read recently over the past few months. I've kind of was gathering them together, and I knew I'd ordered a couple that I would want to talk about, so that's why I have 5 to discuss with you today. The first one of these is one of my sort of most anticipated releases of the year. I was really looking forward to this one, and this is To Drink Coffee with a Ghost by Amanda Lovelace. And this is part of the, she has 2 poetry series, and this one is part of the Things That Haunt duology. So she has the Women Are Some Kind of Magic series, which is The Princess Saves Herself in this one, The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one, and The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one, which my other video covers. And then this is the duology To Make Monsters of Girls and To Drink Coffee with a Ghost. Now, first of all, I absolutely love the cover on this one. And we've got the coffee stain on the back and a little taster bit of poetry there. And you can see I've marked off quite a few poems that I really liked. This one is definitely, this duology is definitely slightly darker than the other, what is a trilogy at the moment, but I don't know if we're getting more. And I quite like that about it. I quite like that there's a contrast between these 2 books, which come out as these kind of matte, buff feeling hardbacks, and then the other 3 books that we've got out so far that I obviously have multiple special editions of. But, you know, I have marked quite a few. I like this illustration. I like the fact that these poetry collections have illustrations in, because that really works for me as a reader. I really enjoy seeing those and putting it somewhere together. This one here, I really like these poems. These deal with like kind of being in a toxic relationship, being with in a kind of mentally abusive relationship. If I didn't lose weight, you said I was disgusting. If I lost too much weight, you said I was disgusting. And this is, there was never any winning with you, and there was never any winning with you too. I really like the fact that we've got poetry. Oh, look, there's another illustration for you. Poetry in different lengths and formats, and I really like the titles that the poems have in this one. And I like the fact that Amanda Lovelace is obviously a big book fan as well, so we get poetry to do with books. And when she's talking about being in a better relationship, there's things to do with the fact that they understand that the books are an important part of the relationship as well. You gave me this great escape, shelves and shelves of adventures, but I used them to escape you. So this is books upon books upon books. I like the title of that one. And then, yeah, a few other things. And then this one is also broken into different sections, which is a feature of her poetry in general. And I like the titles of the different sections. So definitely recommend this duology, but know that it is definitely darker than the Women Are Some Kind of Magic series so far. Then one that I read very recently, I ran out of Post-its, so I've got some dog-eared pages in this one because I did want to mark, but I ran out of my little tabby things. They're like just the ends of them. I ran out completely, and I was away from home when I was reading this. So this is Masquerade by Cyrus Parker. I really enjoyed Dropkick Romance by Cyrus Parker. And in case you didn't know, Cyrus Parker is married to Amanda Lovelace. And so I always seem to end up reading their books together or in quite close succession. First of all, we have to talk about the cover of this one as well. The fact that we've got the shiny mask and then the matte soft touch finish. So our nice shades of grey and black here really pop. And then again, this one also has illustrations in, and this page here I flagged because I like not only the illustrations but the title of these 2 poems as well. A bit like the contrast between Amanda Lovelace's 2 series, I would say that Masquerade is definitely slightly darker and tackles some different issues than Dropkick Romance does, but not to the detriment of my enjoyment of the poetry. I think that my enjoyment of this poetry definitely was just as much as Dropkick Romance. There's less about romance in this one, but then you could tell that because of the difference in the title. Some other pages I've flagged and marked. I really like this one. This one is about being a poet. Every poet has that one person they swear they'll never write about again, and your ghost refuses to stop haunting my fingertips. I wrote half a book of poetry about you, and it was supposed to be a eulogy and exorcism, but instead I seem to have disturbed the grounds. I built a castle of quartz and circled it in salt, but still you managed to find a way through the cracks. So yeah, so again, if you read Dropkick Romance and loved it as much as I did, then definitely know that you're going to enjoy this one. Again, this is broken down into sections, and I really like the different sections. These sections are numbered, and I like the page markers so that you know you're dealing with different poems when you go into the new section. But yeah, if you love Dropkick Romance, you are going to enjoy this one, but know that it is definitely a bit darker. And what's great about, I think, all of these books that I'm talking about, all of these collections of poetry, they all have some trigger warnings at the start of them, so you can exercise your own judgment to do with the self-care when you pick up these books. I enjoyed all of these, that's why I'm recommending them to you, but obviously check the trigger warnings, check the care warnings, and always exercise self-care. Then I have one from Morgan Parker that I picked up at Book Expo. I got to meet Morgan Parker and get this one signed, and I really like it what she wrote in the front. There are more beautiful things than Beyonce, and then she wrote Katrina is more beautiful than Beyonce in the front, so I really like that. This was very different. The other books of poetry have a sort of similar layout and similar feeling, and this one just felt a bit different, so it's quite nice to read something that definitely felt a bit different. And then there's a lot about intersectional feminism and Black identity in here. There's a lot about politics in here as well, which I absolutely love. I have marked some of my favourite poems in here as well, and some that I'm going to come back to. But yeah, this, you can see even just like looking at the layout of the poems, these poems tend to be longer. And I recently read, in one of my previous wrap-ups, I talked about Who Put This Song On by Morgan Parker, which is part poetry and part YA sort of biographical novel. I thought it was just going to be a straight novel, but it had some poetry in there, and it seems like it's slightly autobiographical as well. And this one is interesting because it's called Welcome to the Jungle. With champagne, I try expired white ones. I mean pills. I mean men. I think I'm going crazy sometimes, really. You think I'm joking? I'm never joking. So again, a lot of the poems in this one are quite dark, but she ties in a lot of things to do with Beyonce, Lady Gaga, but then she also does talk about alcohol and drugs and, like I say, Black identity, intersectional feminism, and so that's why I really enjoyed this one, the fact that it covers so many different areas, and because obviously she's writing from a completely different perspective to our last two writers, you get a completely different book of poetry. I have to admit I was drawn to the title, and I like this cover as well, but the poetry inside was also very enjoyable. And then I have two very different books from Nikita Gill. So I have Your Heart is the Sea, which I was sent for review by the publisher. And then I ordered myself Great Goddesses, Life Lessons from Myths and Monsters. Now, Great Goddesses is that mixture, a bit like Nikita Gill's more last one that I read and talked about, that the title of is escaping me right now. It's a mixture of kind of poetry and more prose-like writing. Let me see, is it in here? Yeah, so it's a little bit more like Fierce Fairy Tales, whereas Wild Embers is more just a collection of poems like Your Heart is the Sea. This one is a little bit more like Fierce Fairy Tales, so we've got a mixture of poetry and more prose-like poems, with again illustrations in there, which I really like, because it really helps me to picture the subject of the poetry or the prose. I would say that I prefer the ones like Wild Embers and Your Heart is the Sea to, oh, I love this one, to this one, just because they're slightly easier to pick up and put down, but that's just a personal preference. If you prefer some longer bits and stories, particularly those about Greek gods and goddesses, then definitely recommend this one. I think that the illustrations are just beautiful, and some of the poems in here are amazingly kind of raw and definitely have a feminist leaning, and a, you know, there's definitely an element of girl power about this, which I really like. So yeah, so I really enjoyed this one, and as you can see, I've marked quite a few poems, and I really liked the illustrations. They helped me to kind of place which gods we were talking about and where we were in that process. But out of the two, I definitely preferred Your Heart is the Sea. I sat down and read this one, and you can see I've gone into like double page marking with this one. Sat down and read this one, and just like identified with a lot of it as well. I think yeah, definitely personal preference, I preferred this one. This one again is broken into sections, and we have the different sections called different things, and we have this like grey to break up the section. So this is the Defiance. Never forget, you are more powerful than you are damaged, and you will rise from any abyss they drown you in. Liked that one. Obviously, again, we have some slightly longer poems in here, which I really enjoyed. But this one is very much more to do with identity than it is to do with the Greek gods and goddesses. And I think that's why I was able to identify with a lot of the poems in this one. As I say, I sat down to read this one and was just absolutely drawn in. The Way Damaged People Love, that's a great title. And then ended up flagging so many poems that I like. And then the acknowledgements is done in verse as well, which I really love, from writer to reader. Allow me to tell you what a privilege it has been to have been created from the same dust, droplets of cosmic rain, ancient energy, and cradled by our Mother Universe in the same interstellar nursery as you. I appreciated that kind of acknowledgement note from the author bit at the back here. This title is great. To the bartender in St. Louis who gave me the best advice I never listened to. I really like that one. So yeah, so definitely enjoyed both of the Nikita Gills that I read, but I just preferred this one over the other one. But if you prefer a little bit more prose style writing mixed in with your poetry, then Great Goddesses is definitely the one for you. So we have Your Heart is the Sea by Nikita Gill, Great Goddesses by Nikita Gill, There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce by Morgan Parker, Masquerade by Cyrus Parker, and To Drink Coffee with a Ghost by Amanda Lovelace. So these are my 5 poetry books I have read and enjoyed an awful lot recently, and they are my recommendations for you if you are looking at getting into some modern poetry or have enjoyed other books by these authors and want to find out where to go next. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if you have some recommendations on what I should read next after having enjoyed these. I will be back with another Vlogmas video for you tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed so that lands in your subscription feed, and I will see you then. Thank you.